So it's been about a week since the student protests in India. The education minister resigned and the parliament passed a bill to amend the previous law. In general, it should be wins all round, right? No more leaked papers and everyone's happy? Well, I don't think so. The students have done well to make the demands heard despite the police brutality and the government's attempts to shut it down, but it still isn't enough. The Indian education system as a whole is broken. What's needed is a full revamp of the system, and things within the current system, like the resignation and the amendment, are just weak attempts to put band-aids on the problem. Let's explore that. So what does India's education system currently look like? You memorize facts from a textbook and spit it out in an exam. This goes for school and undergrad degrees in my experience, and from what I've heard from other people, it goes for most master's degrees as well. This form of testing doesn't really see if you've learned the material and can apply it, it just sees if you can remember it. An exam may ask who founded deontology or what is deontology, but it won't ask how do you apply deontology to your life. Paulo Friere was a Brazilian philosopher who talked a lot about educational reform. He coined this term the banking model of education. What this means is that educational systems treat knowledge like money. Someone who has knowledge or money, the teacher, puts this money into a container, or the student. This model removes the agency of the student because it doesn't allow for critical thinking because the student is passive. When they're passive, they can't respond and they have to take what the teacher says as gospel. This is what the Indian education system does. It churns out a bunch of people who have to accept the word of authority as truth. It's the reason you see a lot of people raging online when people criticize Modi, because they have to believe that Modi is correct simply because he has authority. In their mind, anyone who disagrees with Modi is anti-national, and that's where the agenda comes from. You might have heard this term andhbhakt, which literally means blind devotee. These people are blindly following the word of a leader that they believe in. And andhbhakts are a product of the Indian education system. So the first change that's needed is in the teaching structure itself. Friere proposed a model that has three parts: praxis, dialogue, and conscientization. Critical consciousness is necessary for understanding the world and society, and this comes from critical thinking. So instead of a teacher saying, oh, this is true, the teacher asks, what do you think about this? They ask the students to get at the root of the problem instead of giving them the answer in the beginning. You see this used as a hook online in videos as well, right? Someone will ask a question and be like, oh, why does this work that way? And they provide you the answer over the course of the video. But this invites you to think along with them in the beginning about why something happens a certain way.
How much LSD should you give an elephant? Well, to a reasonable person, the correct answer is probably none. But what if you needed to do it for a scientific experiment?
But this understanding can only happen if there's a dialogue between the teachers and the students. There needs to be mutual respect, and the teachers need to view the students as people instead of just vessels in which they have to put knowledge. And this dialogue then leads to praxis, or the teachers practicing what they preach. So a teacher should understand why the British colonization of India was bad and apply it to other power dynamics and implement decolonizing things in their own life so that they can make their education system better instead of just, spitting facts about British colonization.
I use the word uppered and not upper as a linguistic trick and an important one to work with ideas that frame what you might call as decolonization. And that is to turn a noun into a verb.
When this is put into practice in India, what's going to happen is that people are going to have more empathy and there'll be less mixing of identity with politics. Now about the protests. The protest resulted in Dharmendra Pradhan's resignation, but it's not the end goal, or at least it shouldn't be. In terms of justice, there are broadly two ways to look at it: punitive and reformative. Punitive justice is punishment because you did a bad thing. It's supposed to be a deterrent. Someone doesn't steal because they're afraid to go to jail. Reformative justice is a little more nuanced. Its goal is to change the people. So instead of locking someone up for stealing, you give them skills like plumbing or being an electrician so that they can earn money so that they don't have to steal going forward. The protesters should not only be looking for punitive justice against Pradhan. Yes, it should be punitive in that an incompetent, allegedly corrupt guy should not be allowed to hold office. But the students should try to look forward and see that his resignation leads to actual reformations. So what is the solution, right? Along with changing the teaching structure itself, we need to abolish entrance exams. The whole system of entrance exams has led to a culture of rank worship. The goal isn't just to get into university and build a better life, it's to beat everyone else while getting there. Someone who achieved like a top 5 rank in an entrance exam is going to expect respect simply because they did that, even if they fail out of university and do nothing with their life. Now, 2 things happen because of this. The first is that coaching centers target younger and younger kids. Institutions outside of school like BASE, Allen and Akash, they're all staples of Indian childhoods. I also went to BASE when I was in like the 8th grade, and my high school was integrated with like BASE for IIT coaching. Kids as young as 6 years old are being put into these coaching centers and expected to do more and more advanced things as a part of their curriculum. And like, sure, they should be tested and they should be trying to learn more, but at the same time, it's also important for them to have a life outside of education, right? Now, this is dystopian in and of itself, but there are other impacts beyond just, them not being able to play. The result of this is that kids grow up with immense pressure and end up killing themselves. The National Institute of Health is literally trying to do research to fix the mental health issue caused by coaching centers. The thing is, these coaching centers also function the same way as school, using Friere's banking model. So these kids go to school for like 8 hours and they spend all day being talked at, and then they go home and go to a coaching center to spend another 2 to 4 hours being talked at. The coaching centers are also exorbitantly priced. Like, look at any coverage of Byju's to see how scummy these coaching centers are. Because they exist for profit, they try to exploit parents and kids as much as they can, while doing as little as they need to actually prepare these kids for their exams. So the kids don't benefit at all from these exams or these coaching centers. The second thing that happens because of rank worship is underhanded tactics. With the 2026 NEET exam, what happened is that someone within the education system overseen by Dharmendra Pradhan leaked these papers to coaching centers, and that's how it got out. These coaching institutions, they go out of their way to bribe people and get a leg up on their competition so that they can say that their kids scored higher ranks, and they'll use this as marketing to lure in other children who are hoping for the same. They aren't actually interested in helping these children prepare for exams or life or anything. All they want to do is make a shit ton of money. It's just disgusting, the whole system. And this is why just increasing punishments won't work. If someone wasn't afraid of 3 to 5 years in jail, why would they suddenly be afraid of a minimum of 5 years? It's about the risk reward. They feel like the reward is too good to pass up on taking the risk, so they're going to be doing that anyway. What this means is that you're not going to see a reduction in leaks of exam papers. So what needs to change is more fundamental. If entrance exams are abolished, then coaching centers become obsolete, or at least they'd actually have to try. Instead of stuffing all these kids into a narrow pigeonhole, these universities should be testing more for aptitude. They should be encouraging trade jobs and vocational learning. There's a whole other issue of casteism related to vocational and trading jobs that I might get into in another video. But these are the things that need to fundamentally change within the Indian education system. I don't know what the CJP's 5-point plan for exam reform includes, and I don't know how much the government is actually going to try and change things. But there needs to be a foundational, earth-shattering change to the Indian education system so that people can actually benefit from the education that they receive. Stay safe. Don't expect the bare minimum from the government. Thank you for listening. I've been Varun Vyas Hebaralu.